How is everybody doing? I do hope everybody is doing well. Today is day 11 of our husband's boot camp, and it is Rabbi Miller's one of his 10 commandments of marriage, I believe the sixth one, which is never say the words, I hate you. It's such a extremely simple thing, but it's very powerful. Growing up in my house, we were never allowed to say the words, I hate you in general, just to anybody. You never said, we weren't allowed to say, I hate something. It's a very strong, powerful word. And if you say it about, I hate the noodles, you're going to end up saying it about somebody. And that's something that once it's uttered, you can't get back. Words have power. You know, there's a great story with Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach at the funeral for his wife. So the Ashkenazim have a custom that the family members come to the casket and they ask forgiveness. We kind of have it also, but with the Ashkenazim, it's much more prominent because they vocally say it. Everybody gets up to the casket and they go ahead and they ask the person who passed on for forgiveness for anything they may have done. Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach refused to go up, and he said no. He said, because in my decades of marriage with my wife, there was never once a hurtful word or a hurtful act done between the two of us. Now that's so powerful. That's so strong. Could you imagine married, living with somebody for decades, 50, 60 years, and never an utterance of a bad word? But that's the way Jews have to act. Words have power. In American culture, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But yet, we know how powerful words can be. Words can label. Words can disable. Words can destroy. Or words can build. Every word that's uttered from your mouth to your spouse is something that has to be weighed. You just can't say things so openly. In fact, I was in Rabbi Miller's class one time where somebody asked him, what do you do if your wife is getting heavy? You want to tell her that she's gaining too much weight. So Rabbi Miller said, write a letter, an anonymous letter, and put it in the mailbox. I mean, I don't know if that's the answer, but his point was you can't say anything. His point was keep your mouth shut. Because when you utter something that's negative about the other person, it's powerful. A wife especially looks constantly to her husband for validation. She rates herself based on what her husband thinks. Then we'll talk about this more maybe tomorrow's lesson. But the words that you say are actually going to create the reality of what she believes in herself. So if you are constantly saying negative, abusive, bad talk about her, she's going to start to believe that about herself. And then when she starts to believe that about herself, she has to do one of two things. Either she's going to fall into a depression and be a non-functioning person in which you labeled her that way, she's going to end up being that way, or even worse, she's going to have to push back because you're branding me a certain way and you're the person putting me in that way. Well, then I can't live in the same reality with you. So therefore, you're the crazy one, and she's going to go ahead and escalate the war of words. We spoke about this probably the first or second day about linear relationships where certain things can constantly grow. You know, Chacham Obadiah says, the pasuk says, "Lo tiva'aru esh bechol moshevotechem." You're not allowed to make a fire in all of your dwellings on the day of Shabbat. That's a law. You can't make fire on Shabbat. We know that law. Chacham Obadiah says, our rabbis say, means don't grow the fire of mahloket, of arguments. He says, how do arguments start? Just like a fire. A fire needs a spark and it needs a source it needs a power source. It needs a fuel. You have a little spark and a little fuel. He says two kids are sitting at the table, and one says, pass the peas, and the other one says, I can't do it because you're an idiot. And one says, I'm an idiot, you're a tipesh. And then they're screaming and yelling at each other and fighting. He says that's what happens. Each person escalates the fire and the heat that they bring, and before you know it, the whole house is burned down. It's the same exact way. When you say words to your spouse, either one of two things happen. Either they accept it and they look inside the mirror and they say, he's right, I'm a terrible person, and they don't function, and they become worse of a person, or they have to fight back, and they get angrier and angrier and angrier. When you're in an argument, when you're angry, when you know something is going to slip out of your mouth that you don't want to slip out of your mouth, no matter what she says, you keep your mouth quiet. You open up the door, you take a walk down the block, you tell your wife, please leave me now. I need a few minutes to myself. But you never, ever, ever utter those words. You never say the words, as Rabbi Miller says, I hate you. You never say something that could be worse than that, or something that could be even less than that, that's negative. Words have power. The words to our spouse should be positive, constantly good words and blessings and compliments to our spouse and good things that build the relationship. That even if she doesn't really like you, but if you're constantly saying to her good things in a genuine way, and we spoke about compliments before, they have to be genuine. If they're fake, it's going to come across as fake. And she says, "The hell with you? Who needs you? You're a faker. You don't really believe that." But if they're genuine, well, she has either one of two ways to go. The exact opposite of hurtful words. Either she's going to live up to that and she's going to be awesome like you say, or she's going to look at you and she's going to say, "Wait, you're the source of branding me in such a positive way. Well, you know what? You're a great guy." And she's going to start complimenting you. Have a great day. Task number 11. Since our thing was never say the word hate, and we spoke about hurtful words, and I hope I implored upon everybody the importance of positive wording. There's much more to say about that. We could give classes on that, but I like to keep these short. However, today's task is going to be a big one, and it's going to be an important one, because we're committing now not to say negative things, but you can't commit unless there's a sorry and an apology for saying anything hurtful in the past. Randomly go to your wife tonight and say, "Honey, Shuvato," or whatever you say. "I just want to say I'm sorry for any hurtful words I may have said in the past. I'm going to do my best to ensure that nothing negative about you comes out of my mouth. Even in anger, even when I'm upset. You know I never mean those things. You know it's just because I feel trapped and I have to say something, so I say something ugly out of my mouth for shock value. I, God forbid, never mean it, but please forgive me for those words, and I'm going to make it my business never to say anything bad to you again."